easy. Yeah. Trying to write a song that'll pay the bills, but it ain't came yet. I guess I have to rob a bank. Mm-hmm. Oh, guess it could be worse. It ain't that bad. At least I ain't sitting in no Baghdad in the middle of the hot darn desert, sitting in the tank. Well, every time the wife talks, the baby gets mentioned. I'm so broke, I can't pay attention. And Lord, how it tears me up to have to see her cry. I was thinking something. What? Start the show. Are we live? Oh, are you sure? We're not live. If we were live, we had 10,000 people right now sharing, liking, and commenting already. So I don't believe that we're actually live. Are you sure? Hey, no. Because if we were live, I wouldn't be able to tell such a horrible, horrible joke, right? Because tonight I'm trying to figure out, like, did I don't know, therapists exist in the biblical times. But before we get to that, I'm going to start with this. What do you call a cow with no legs, wife? Oh, man, I wish y'all could see her. She's just shaking her head. No. But you're not going to answer? You're not going to play along? What about the show? I'm the boss. What's the use of owning your own show if you can't start when you feel like it? A cow with no legs is ground beef. There. See? Ruined my dadgum joke. That's all right. That's all right. I still love you. Well, if you play that music. All right. Yeah. Good. Anyway, welcome back to What the FRAP podcast. I'm your host, Jay Zilla, and I'm here with my beautiful wife. Anyway, we're here. We're gonna be talking to a couple of fellas and trying to figure out like how to fix Jay Zilla's mental a little bit, okay? But while the intro plays, do me a favor, please. Like, share, subscribe, comment, follow, whatever the FRAP it is. And I won't be mad if you want to send me some stars if you're watching on Facebook. Thank you to our audio only crew over there on what was it? iTunes, Apple iTunes. Is that what it is, wife? Yes, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. So for now, while y'all like and share and blow up my spot, we're going to go ahead and play that intro. Thanks. And 3, like and share.
This morning, a violent weather outbreak bringing tornadoes to Florida's Atlantic coast.
Now to that urgent and massive manhunt after that deadly mass shooting near Houston. The youngest victim just 8 years old. Police say the suspect.
International High School of New Orleans is making quite an impression on the college admissions.
Dennis Barnes has gone into 125 colleges and universities. He's also earned millions in scholarships. As for how he did it, well, the teen is very humble and credits hard work and those around.
All right. Finally, we got some sense that is going to be brought to the show. I got a couple of fellas here with me. Go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell them a little bit about yourselves. And how'd you get roped into visiting such a low-class show?
Hey, everyone. I'm Jesse, a pastor, New Creation Albuquerque in the International District, and I'm glad to be here. How did I get roped into this? I didn't know what I was getting roped into until that intro, so I might have to exit. But
yeah,
I know I wouldn't hold it against you. All right, let me try somebody else. Hey, producer, this may be the record, but get him the FRAP off of here. He serves God, and I'm very, very happy he does. But nobody comes on and talks about the show. No one, not nobody, not know how. Let's try this with Mr. Parker. Maybe he can do a little bit better. Parker, who are you?
what's up? My name's Parker Stram. I work with the Navigators Parachurch Ministry, and I work specifically for a branch that is in urban areas concerned with things like systemic injustice, whole life discipleship, that kind of thing. And so I've been doing that for almost 10 years. And yeah, that's me.
That's me. All right. So in the intro, I was talking about like did therapy exist in biblical times, especially before Christ comes. How that work? Was it all religion? Was it just keep your head down and work and don't worry about being depressed and all that? Did it exist? I don't know who would want to go first on this. I think I will start with Mr. Jesse. But talk to me a little bit about therapy through the Bible in biblical times. That's a softball question. It's only gonna get harder from here.
Wow. Oh man, I wish you would have kicked me off. No, I was kidding. That's a good one. Well, the simple answer is no. I don't think in the way that we understand it today, in the way that we approach it today, I don't think therapy existed. However, I do think that we see mental health in the Bible and people struggling with mental health. I think we see God deeply concerned with people's mental health, and I think we see people struggling. And I would just point real quick. I think there's a lot of examples maybe we'll get to, but the whole book of Psalms is kind of the songbook for the people of Israel in the Old Testament. And this is poetry, this is singing, and a third of the Psalms are Psalms of lament. They're Psalms of deep anguish. They're Psalms crying out to God. They're songs that are full of anger at God, anger at their circumstances. They include like tons of descriptions of like gut-wrenching pain and emotional pain. And so I think God has been always very aware, conscious, and near, as it says in Psalm, I believe it's 39. God is near the crushed in spirit. And so I think we see that constant theme throughout Scripture. So therapy, not as we understand it today, but a very deep concern and care for the emotional and mental life of people.
I love that. And so, Parker, you're kind of on at ground zero of this stuff. Is it fair to say that you're the boots on the ground sort of ministry?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Jesse, and we live in the same neighborhood, both boots on the ground. But I mean, yeah, definitely, like, mental health is a big part of my own story. I'm clinically depressed, and have dealt with a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, and all the way to, I mean, just getting real and raw right away, like suicidal thoughts. And that's the one thing, like, I love about the Bible and the Psalms, is it's so real and raw. And I found a lot of my like comfort and help in my mental health from the Psalms specifically. Like, and I've always joked around, man, like, the Psalms, they're so real. Like, I've always wanted to play a game where you take a verse from the Psalms and you're like, okay, was this King David? Was this Jesus? Or was this Kendrick Lamar? It's like, it's that kind of like real raw. Like, it doesn't, it's a good place to go, like in the deep, deep struggles of things like mental health.
That's incredible. Jesus, David, or Kendrick Lamar.
Next time, I'll fool some people. Like,
well, that's an interesting game, man. That needs to happen ASAP. Like, which one is it? Which one is it?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the very raw emotionals in the fight. What do you say to people, Pastor Jesse, who are of the belief that, you don't question God, right? Like, I'm feeling so terrible, so badly. What? Like, if I can't question him or like what my purpose is and all that, like, who do I run to?
Yeah. Well, I would want to, first of all, I would try to just take him right to Jesus and in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he is crying out to God, questioning God, saying, can this cup pass from me? Do I have to go to the cross? And do I have to bear the weight of all of the emotional anguish and pain and despair and violence in the world? Like, Jesus literally is going to take that upon himself and does that in his life. And so I think we see even God on the cross quote the Psalm. He gets real and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And what's beautiful about that Psalm, just a note, because sometimes we just leave it there, but the whole Psalm, which Jesus probably likely quoted, the whole thing from the cross, it begins with that question and then ends with God's presence, saying, I never left you. I'm with you in our suffering. But yeah, I think that's been one of the myths. I think there's a few myths in Christian tradition around mental health and depression. And that's one of them, is you don't question God. And again, man, if you read the Bible it's mostly questions to God. It's a community's
Yeah.
questions of God, and they're super real, and God gives us permission to do that.
Mm.
Man, that's incredible. So, okay, the idea that mental health is the modern day person who is possessed by some sort of evil entity, demon or whatever. Parker, you say that you battle depression currently.
Mhm.
So, what is your thought? I guess your thoughts towards, is that an accurate depiction that mental health issues that we are facing today is the modern day, evil spirit or entity that's taking over the body?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's probably another myth, and that was at the top of my list to like want to chat about. Is I think that some churches do believe that, like that your mental health, whether it's like an evil spirit or your just faith isn't that strong. You know what I'm saying? That you need to like pray more. You're not believing enough in God, which to
Ooh,
someone who is struggling with mental health is actually not encouraging. um
right.
and like mental health, like the church and especially maybe evangelicals, like can be like a little anti-intellectual, a little anti-science, but the reality is like having like mental health, like being clinically depressed or bipolar, uh that's like your brain chemistry. It's like having, it's brokenness in your brain, but we don't treat it like that. It's like we need to treat it like a broken leg. Like if someone has a
Right.
broken leg, you're not like, bro, you're not having enough faith in God. Like it's like, no, that's ridiculous. Like this is it's a physical reality for people, and we need to start there as a faith community, is having that category of mental health and not just saying, oh, it's an evil spirit, or oh, like you just need to have more faith. It's a lot of things, and there's definitely that physical component that's very real.
Right. Right. That is so true. So true. So I like that. So, okay, one things I tell my kids, my wonderful, wonderful kids. I have four. I've got two boys, two girls. My girls are 14 and 18. Shout out to CL. She just graduated from La Cueva High School. Uh, my boys are 4 and 6.
Ooh, we.
Yeah. Pray for me, both of y'all. Everybody out there. Okay.
Yeah.
But what I tell a lot of times, especially with the older kids, like the boys are they're the simplest creatures on the planet. Right? Feed me, play with me, and then let me sleep. That's it. Like they're so easy to deal with. The girls, the girls sometimes allow anxiety to, I don't want to say take over them, but sort of win the individual battles. And I tell them like, hey, what do you want to do? Whether it's in life or today or whatever. And one of the tricks that I've learned over the years, especially when it comes to chores, right? I'd ask my daughters, what do y'all want to do today? Because I know y'all have laundry and you need to clean your room. And they're like, oh, we don't want to do that. It's like, okay, so you rather dad get up here with you and clean? Oh no, you know what? Yeah, I can clean myself. So how that developed for us is the kind of rule is, if you're not sure what you should do, look at what you don't want to happen, right? So if you don't want to get in trouble or lose your phone and screen time, what are some things you can do? So for people out there right now who are struggling with the various genres of mental health, what's one thing? I'll start with, I guess, Pastor Jesse. What's one thing you think that they can know right now, start to implement today, that will absolutely help them in the future?
Man, there's so many things I believe, but you said one. If you give me permission to come back with a couple more later. But I think first, just with the flow of the conversation, number one, I think we have to be real and honest with where we really are. And I believe that God wants it no other way. Like he wants us to be, God meets us where we really are. He meets us where we really are. And we can try to use real fancy words in prayer or try to hide it or whatever. But he knows the deepest depths of our being. And that's what he cares the most about. And so I would just name, in the spirit of the Psalms and the spirit of Jesus, like, it's okay. Be honest, be raw with God. Like, let it out there. My God, why have you forsaken me? Where are you? Why does it hurt so much? What's going on? Like, be real. That's where I would start.
I love it. What about you, Parker?
Yeah, man. Like for me, part of my, I was atheist, unchurched. I came to Christ at 19. And I used to tell people my testimony was, oh, yeah, I used to struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts, but now I'm saved and now I don't. Well, that was nice for like 2 years. And then some like past traumas came back up and that stuff came back. And I was really struggling, like, man, am I even like Christian, feeling like the way that I am? And the one thing I would say is this is not a lone wolf operation, man. You need people. Like, you need people around you that you can trust, where you can share and get real before God, before some trusted friends who can help point you to the way. Because for me, I was so scared to open up about these things, about the struggles in my mind and heart, the doubts, the anxiety that were so crippling. And then when God gave me the courage to share with friends, then they could point me to Jesus. They could point me to the Psalms. Like, I remember I shared so vulnerably about all my anxieties, and my friend, the first thing he said is, he said, Parker, I think what you're going through is biblical. Look at the Psalms. And he quoted me the Psalms, and I'm like, that's exactly what I'm going through. And so, man, yeah, like, it's not a lone wolf thing. You need people around you.
Man. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's gonna testify.
Well, I want to say too, I want to name and acknowledge that that's probably the hardest thing to do when you're in the midst of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
I think depression by its nature is to depress, to recede, to go inward and isolate. And the last thing you feel like, and Parker, you can speak to this, but is I've heard, when you're depressed, the key is to express, like to kind of get out, but that's scary and vulnerable and you're kind of opening up and that feels tough. But I would just name that's not an easy thing to do, to seek community, but it's actually what we need to do.
Absolutely. So there's this so Fred Hampton, I think he started one of the Black Panther parties. And the Black Panthers, I mean, there's plenty wrong with the organization. There's plenty right. One of the things they did was make sure every single child in their community was fed, educated, dressed, and housed. Right? They made sure also that they took advantage of their First and Second Amendment rights, which is we're going to speak about things that bother us, and we're going to be armed to protect ourselves. Okay? But the biggest thing they did was they understood that there was power in people. Now, at the time, there was a sort of an opposition gang, and this gang was actually tasked to protect Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When he was assassinated. So they kind of had a huge stain on this gang, and he went to him and called him out on it. And he says, like, what if you put your weapons down and stop pointing them at, basically the wrong people? Then he also went in this very segregated neighborhood to some Latinos, some Latino gangs, and said the same thing. Some, even went and sat in like a Ku Klux Klan meeting and say, man, y'all see that we're black and we're wrong, but I see that your kids are hungry. And he brought all those people together. And then once that happened, the FBI labeled him as more dangerous than the Soviet Union, Russia.
Wow, man.
Yeah. And then they, began to work. So the idea that there's power in people, like how do we affect people and embolden them? Or I guess in the Romans way of saying it, from the Bible, Romans, how do we convict people to seek out better, right? If you're miserable about your life, what can you do about it? What can you do? Not the boogeyman, not this person is oppressing me and this person took my promotion. What is it? Is there anything in your life that you can do to improve? How do you get people to be convicted to do that? I'll start with Jesse. I'm giving him all the softball questions, Parker. I apologize.
Yeah. I like it.
Well, if the question is how to convict or convince, that's a tough one. And I think in my experience walking with people who are depressed and really struggling with mental health, that's a hard one. Like, I think the posture, I think the temptation as someone who feels all right, is that maybe the healthy one at the time, at the moment, is to try to coerce, manipulate, and push and overpower people who are experiencing, and almost shame them and guilt them, So I'll tell you what not to do. Let's not do that. I mean, I've done that. I fall into that trap. I think we need to kind of come alongside and, first of all, listen, right? We got 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let's listen first. And there's this ministry of presence that we talk about, like being present. I remember one of my friends lost their wife real quickly and unexpectedly to cancer. And, and my wife, we went through a miscarriage and lost the baby. And people don't know what to do. And in their anxiety, they want to alleviate your suffering. They almost want, this is what we have to be aware of too, is like, it's sometimes more about us than the person we're talking to, because their depression, their sickness makes us uncomfortable. And so we want to alleviate that. And so we're trying to move someone along for our sakes, not for their sakes. So I think, as we've all experienced, if we've been in hard times, here comes people trying to make us feel better or themselves feel better. And they say kind of pithy, trite things. I think the first step to convict or convince, or let's say comfort and come alongside, is to just be present. And I remember a man who wrote a book after he lost his son. He said, all I wanted people to do is sit beside me on the morning bench. Just sit beside me on the morning bench and be there. I don't need your words. I don't need you to make me feel better. I don't need you to like convince me how this is part of God's grand plan. Like, it's making it just be with me and cry with me.
Wow, be present, man. That is amazing. So Parker, how would you echo that?
Yeah, I think that's so good. And I think it's a little like counterintuitive, right? And I think like what was shared with me recently is also counterintuitive, but very helpful. And because I think when someone is depressed, or I'm depressed and I'm in that low place, I think I feel anxiety and pressure to get out of that as fast as I can, because it doesn't feel good. I feel shame about, feeling this kind of way. And I was sharing that with a friend, and they told me something so profound, and I love it. It's like giving me so much freedom. But they asked me, they said, Parker, do you know about the difference between a cow and a water buffalo? I was like, nah, bro.
Sorry.
I like that. I like full circle moment right
Full
there.
circle.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Don't take away from my profound moment. I'm just kidding.
Right.
But I was like, no, I don't. But they said, when rain comes, the cows will like try to run away, which ironically, you try to move away from rain, like it stays over you longer. But the water buffalo, they move towards it. They embrace the rain, and then it passes. And for me, I'm in a season now where instead of getting really anxious when I'm in that very depressed place, I'm like, okay, where's Jesus? And that's what I do. I don't try to fret and get out of it. But first thing I do is I just try and find like, God, where are you in this? And so, I think like taking the pressure off, and just for me personally, that's been very freeing. And that's what I would say. Be like the water buffalo.
It's almost like Bruce Lee's famous, be water, my friends. Right? Be water, my friend. Water, you can breeze right through it with your hand, right? But it can also carve a mountain in half. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Right? I'm a Bruce Lee fan, right? But yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the idea of like seeking release, not feeling guilty about it. And yeah. You know what? You shook your head too fast. I don't like that. Get him out here, producer. Does he do that all the time? Oh, is that funny, Jesse? Get him out of here too. I don't understand like rules of engagement around here. I'm gonna take a quick commercial break because these gentlemen talked about relief and the guilt sometimes in seeking relief, right? Uh, Oftentimes you feel a certain way. You want to, I don't know what the word is for, but what is it? Self-diagnosed? No. Self-prescribed? Hold on, let me get them back on here. They're smarter than I am. What's the word I'm looking for, gentlemen? Not self-diagnosed, where you're like someone who's feeling bad, but instead of going to a doctor, they just smoke a joint. Self-medicate. Hey man, I knew that. I didn't need him for that. Dadgummit. So anyway, the self-medication is what usually happens when you feel like you're backed into a corner, and I can't tell people that I have, anxiety or whatever. There are people out there right now in the Albuquerque area who is dealing with a family member, a friend, or someone that's under their care with dementia, most notably Alzheimer's. We want to invite them to take a look at Mayberry Senior Services LLC and understand that there's no shame in giving yourself some relief to recharge your battery so you can better care for your loved one with dementia, Alzheimer's, or any of the other types. So let's take a look at that.
I love her so much, but I need time alone to catch up on things.
The nursing home is not an option for me. I just can't leave her.
If you've been struggling to take care of a loved one, Mayberry Senior Services can help. Our day program is a cost-effective alternative to assisted living or in-home care. We provide engaging activities and assistance with trained staff who are dedicated to improving quality of life. Join our Mayberry family. Call to schedule a tour today.
All right. If you're in the Albuquerque area, again, give them a call and help them out. They're engaging. They do activities. They do brain stimulating things, live music, all kinds of stuff. They feed them good, feed them well. Somewhere my grandfather's like, Superman does good. You're talking about well. Anyway, go check them out. So in that relief, how can you, I don't know, commercialize it? It's probably a bad word, but everybody has their own individual issues and problems. How do you address people as a whole, especially you, Jesse, and Parker, speaking with so many people with so many different problems? How can you sort of make it concise enough to be, I don't know, I guess that many different people with different problems can utilize, the information? And I'll open this up to the floor. Y'all just speak at ease. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point just in general. That, I mean, yeah, mental health is something that touches everyone in some kind of way. And I was listening to, like, Brene Brown is a good person to listen to her about this kind of stuff. She has some like YouTube shorts and whatnot, but she made this really good point, like Newton's second law of physics. Y'all know that? It's like when something experiences a reaction, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so, like, when you experience some kind of trauma or pain or anxiety or embarrassment, like, that is a force that you're experiencing. And you need to find release and relief, or it stays in your body. The body keeps the score and is always right. So it's very healthy and necessary in the day-to-day when you're experiencing these different emotions to find ways to release and express those things.
Absolutely. What are we saying for, I don't know, man, how would you tackle certain problems like the violence in Chicago, or New York or LA, home unhoused people, like what? I mean, that's such a small problem, right? What are you saying to those people in order to turn them around? Someone who's been beaten down and told that this is the way of life. Because what I found with the brain, a couple of studies that say the brain can't distinguish between reality and fiction. So there's an experiment where a professional tennis player came in, got hooked to some machines, and he played tennis. And the next day, same hookup, and they just asked him to sit and think about tennis, and it gave the same readouts. So our brain is super powerful, yet very malleable. So if you get around the wrong people, the wrong crowd, or you're abused a certain way, you can start to think they're like, yeah, this is just what it is, and the brain tries to adjust to it as if it's normal. How do you counteract that?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer, and it comes back to that community relationship piece. Like that's one reason why Parker and I live where we live and chosen to be where we are, because I think one of the deepest needs that we have as human beings is belonging and community, and it needs to be. And with community, it's a diverse community, right? You talk about Black Panthers bringing multiple different people together. That's the power of the people. The power of people is not a homogenous, like one singular group, because that's what happens is it's an echo chamber of all the same traumas and all the same setbacks, and we start talking, and that's our reality. But I think when we bring together a diverse group of people with diverse cultures, with diverse experiences, and we're willing to be present again with one another, to sit with one another on the morning bench, on the curb of the street, and to remind ourselves, like, this is a season. This isn't everyone's experience. There is hope, and I'm with you in the midst of it. I think that's where the power of the people is, and the power of people being present, to put another P in there, is that's where the magic is, man.
That's incredible. So what even made you want to be, I was probably supposed to ask this earlier, but what made you want to be a pastor, and how did that come to be?
Yeah. Well, I started in college. I started working with teenagers, and so I really found a love for people that way, and loving being with them. And so I became a youth pastor. But then the way that I kind of found myself where I am now in the International District, which is the most kind of diverse area of our city in Albuquerque. It's the most densely populated, 28 different languages are spoken in the high school. And it's also kind of where we find a lot of people just being marginalized and living the struggle. And so what happened, how I just kind of found myself here, is just Jesus, I would say. Jesus, my favorite verse is Jesus, the word became flesh, and he moved into the neighborhood, and he took on the vulnerability and the weakness and the risk of being human. And he took on the vulnerability of experiencing pain, our pain, and being near pain, and being at risk. And so, yeah, being a pastor for me, I feel like our calling is all the same, and that's to be with one another in the way of Jesus, and to not shy away from pain and hurt, and not try to like hide ourselves from it. Because, yeah, I feel like, and as I've grown, I'll say this too, because at first I came in like a lot of white people that look like me, thinking, hey man, I'm gonna fix this place. I got what you need. I got the recipe. And what I'm learning is, hey man, I've been healed as much as I desired to heal. And that's the beauty again of that diverse power of people, is that we're all wounded healers, and we all need one another. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. But.
No, beautifully. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we met, Pastor Jay. So we, I used to work for, saw the commercial earlier for you all at home who may not be aware. I used to work for Mayberry Senior Services, and we had one of our co-workers pass away, and he had a lot of issues and everything. So me, the Christian side of my brain and heart was like, whew, he's done. He's done. My goodness, that was a rough race, but he finished. He was very kind, very hardworking. I mean, his shift would end, and he would see us struggling, and he'd ask, Reese or Jessica, hey, can I just stick around a little bit longer? Just help him out. Things like that. And I remember being hurt, sad, confused, but mostly angry. Because, I'm not going to say some names, but I'm like, that guy dies, but blank is still walking around here. I was so angry. And I love how, one, you're a fantastic listener. And you just absorbed all of that, and then you just spoke very gently, very kind. He had a magnificent beard, right? I mean, it was just great. Like, I remember crying in our little session, thinking about some issues that I was going through. And so, how do we train more Jessies and Parkers? Yeah, easy question, Parker. Go ahead.
Ooh, this is good, man. Because I like this. Because man, what comes to mind right away is I think about Matthew 25, and I think about Jesus talking about the sheep and the goats. And there's one group of people who they loved the prisoner, they clothed the naked, they fed the hungry, and Jesus says, "What you did to them, you were doing to me." So they were able to see Jesus in the hurting, in the marginalized. But here's the thing. I don't think that we can see Jesus in the hurt of others until we have experienced Jesus in the hurt of our own pain, our own stories. And so I think that's first and foremost, because the other thing is, if you're just focusing on others and not yourself, that's paternalistic. That is kind of that, like, God complex, like, let me save you, let me help you. But really, in my opinion, you need to go inward. You need to find Jesus in your own pain and be honest about your own story and these traumas or false narratives that you've believed about yourself, and find Jesus there before you can truly find the Jesus who is in the hurt and pain of others.
Man, that's incredible. What do we say to people who don't have the comfort of faith? There are people who probably listen to this right now. I debated a guy maybe a month or so ago who just thought, it shocked him. He said, "Man, you're so smart, this, that, and the third. I don't see how you can believe in that book." I said, "What do you mean?" And his whole thing was like, there's no evidence, right? And I struggled trying to explain my faith and why I believe, but the best thing I came up with is, that, I mean, you're right. Like, I don't have anything that I could just whip out of a box that I kept from when I got saved to show you that's going to save you. I said, but what the Bible itself talks about, I leave you now, so not that you know, but that you believe. Like, faith was so important, is so important. And then the idea of you can tell a tree by the fruits that it bears, right? So what do all these things mean and how they connect? Like, what are you telling someone who doesn't believe right now, who's listening to you? How do I get that comfort of faith that you all have?
How do you get the comfort of faith without faith? Is that what you're asking me?
Right. If you don't have it, because I guarantee you, I had a time in my life where I was told not to question God. I had questions. I was told not to question God, and I just thought, I'm out of here. I feel like I was a little scientist at the time. Like, but I thought, okay, I'm done with this whole thing. And then I attended a church who there was a pastor who just stopped the sermon because he could see someone's face kind of grimace at something he says. And brother, stand up if it's okay. Tell me what's wrong. And they sat and had a little mini debate. And once they got on one accord, then he began the sermon again. And I thought, oh yeah, this is my brand of Pepsi, right? Yeah, it was just so, like, I felt like actual pure joy when I saw that, and I spoke with him at length after that. So I know the feeling of being in a place where, like, even my wife, looking at my wife, when I'm struggling with bipolar 2, which is what I was diagnosed with, right? Which, by the way, it doesn't have to last forever. I didn't know I can graduate from that, but that's a real thing. But as I was struggling, and she was, trying to be the Proverbs woman and helpmate, And I just remember feeling envy and jealousy. Like, how is it that she just gets up and goes to work? She just jumped in the shower, got dressed, got the kids dressed, got them breakfast, drove them all over the city. You know, like I felt like angry. Like how like it was this mystical, magical thing. So how do people in my position get the same sort of faith that you all have? Like, is it in Walmart? Like, can I get it on Amazon? Like, how? How?
Man, I mean, the thing that keeps coming to my mind, I think that's a really hard question. I don't know if I can answer it, but the thing that keeps coming to my mind is you don't need to believe in Jesus for him to be with you. I mean, I believe Jesus loves you, cares for you, is present to you, even if you resist his presence. Now, I think my personal belief is that if you surrender to that love and that presence, if you would say, kind of like lean in a little bit, it'll be much more beautiful.
Nice. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, which depending upon the day and the subject, I kind of go back and forth with this guy. Like, I wish I could get in the room and just talk and listen and then talk and listen, because there's a lot I agree with, there's a lot I disagree with. But one of my favorite answers to a question is they asked him, like, do you believe in God? And his response was, I act as if he exists. Which is like, whoa, what does that mean? You know? And as he starts to describe what that meant to him, is that I'm choosing to believe in God, which means I'm choosing to obey the Bible, which means I gotta, obey those 2 golden rules from Christ, right? Our best human example, half human example of, how to navigate this world. And essentially, it came down to, love God first. Okay, I got that. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's 3 different groups. That's God, neighbor, self. Now, if you put that in that particular order, that means you're doing a whole heck of a lot of serving. A whole heck of a lot of serving. And so, like you said earlier, y'all said earlier, sometimes it's just about put everything you got into helping somebody. If you feel down or whatever, just go help somebody. So that's why, I mean, those are one of the ways that I've heard people talk about their faith that, mostly made sense to me. I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out. It's a lifelong pursuit out here.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts on, is that an appropriate response? And then could that be helpful in this fight to like make, help give people that faith, acting as if God exists?
Yeah, I think that could be helpful, because sometimes it's like, even for me, like I would say like I follow Jesus, but my feelings are fickle, man. Like, and if I followed my feelings 100% every time, I mean, I would be in a lot of trouble. I would probably be dead or in prison, bro. Like, I'm just saying, like at some point we have to stop putting like so much faith in feelings, and it's kind of like the idol of authenticity. Like, well, I'm just feeling this way, so it's like, okay, well, at some point, like a thankful mouth makes a grateful heart. So you hear what I'm saying? It's like you sometimes you gotta let the feelings follow and not always follow the feelings, which I know in this day and age and cultural moment, that is a big deal to be like authentic and vulnerable, and I get that. But yeah, I think sometimes it does take like doing what is right despite not having the feelings there. And for me, like, I got a wife, I got 2 kids, I got a ministry, I got a job. It's like there's people depending on me, and it's a balance of like, I want to be real, authentic, and vulnerable, but I'm not going to let my feelings just completely dictate me 100% of the time. So yeah, I could see that.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Like, it's when you look around and you think about, like, are you seeing hope or just like there's no chance of recovery? And you can be a glass half full person, I suppose. But there are actual examples. Like, so when the gentleman I debated, we were talking about, well, how can you measure, whether or not God exists? I said, well, we can't really see the wind. This is going to be clumsy, so feel free to kind of, chat GPT this thing, okay? So I told him, I said, you can't see the wind, but you can measure it by the things that it moves through.
Heck yeah.
So, like, for me, if I see someone who's, who society deems them as an absolute monster, but then one person shows them love and attention and affection, and that person has changed, it's like, I can't see the spirit inside of them, but I did know them when they were this way, and now they're that way. There's something there, right? There's got to be something there.
Amen, bro.
If you look at, I think it's Daryl Jackson. He's a musician. He went to a bar. He played some music. The white guy was just like, man, I've never heard a black dude play music like a white boy before. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, man, you sound just like Jerry Lee Lewis. He said, well, who do you think taught Jerry Lee Lewis? So they were going back and forth about a common interest, which was music. They shared a drink together, and he confessed that he was a Ku Klux Klan member, and this is the first beer he ever had with a black man. And so the black musician laughs, and the guy pulled out his card, his Ku Klux Klan card. And then the next time he was in town, he brought other buddies back with him, took them out back, and was like, hey, we want to say we appreciate you. Like, you've changed our entire world. And they wanted to have him burn their ceremonial robes. And they were going to burn the cards, but he was like, no, keep that as a reminder. And now former Klansmen and this black musician go about the work at, rehabilitating Klansmen. Like, they go to meetings and they say their piece, they get kicked out, but one or two comes with them. First is curiosity, and then they see the generosity, and then they want to give it back. Then next thing you know, man, take this robe, take this card. I don't want to be a part of that kind of hate anymore. So when you hear stories like that, it's like, if a Klansman and a black guy can get along, like, does any one of us have a real excuse? Like, someone took my parking spot, so now I hate them. It's like, come on.
Right.
Man. Okay, so listen, I know I probably kept y'all here long enough. So the show is called What the FRAP. I've explained often, probably, some people out there right now rolling their eyes. Here you go again. But some people are new, okay? I got to make sure they all feel included, all right? F word plus crap, FRAP is a more family-friendly version of that word in order to, release some stress without getting yourself in trouble. There you go. So we play a game called FRAP Yeah or FRAP No, okay? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll go in the order of Jesse, Parker, okay? So red chili is better than green chili or Christmas. Jesse, FRAP yeah or FRAP no?
FRAP no.
FRAP no. Parker?
FRAP no, man. Green chili.
Green chili. All right, got a couple of green chilians out here. Quick story about that. I'm from Tennessee. I came out here. A nice young lady asked me if I wanted a bowl of chili. And I said, okay, sure. Yeah. Can you put some, onions and cheese on top? And she was like, sure, I guess. And my then fiance is just chuckling. I should have known something was wrong there. And so they came back with this salsa looking stuff, and it was like with onions and cheese. I was like, what is this? So it's chili. And so she's like, oh, it's fine, ma'am. And so my wife explains to me what chili is. It's like the salsa. All right. So here's a hard one. The Bible is absolutely okay with sexism and slavery. FRAP yeah or FRAP no?
FRAP no.
Parker?
FRAP no.
What do y'all rehearse your answers, man? What's going on here?
That's easy, man.
Look, I'm gonna start with Jesse here. Like, that huge misconception. Like, how in 5 words or less can you fix that misconception? Go. I'm just kidding about the 5 words or less thing. What are people getting wrong about, these scriptures that lightly touch on those subjects?
Well, yeah. Okay, I'll say first of all, the Bible is written over many years in a certain culture or context that was mostly patriarchal, which is like male dominated. And so a lot of the language and stuff is used, male pronouns. But I think a couple things to keep in mind when we're reading the Bible, because it describes something doesn't mean it condones it. So it's going to describe a lot of messed up stuff. Doesn't mean it condones it. The other thing is we always have to read the Bible through the lens of Jesus, because Jesus is what God is really like. Jesus is the perfect revelation of what God looks like, is. And so we see Jesus like subverting and undoing, unraveling all that mess and all that misconception. So he empowers women. He sits with the people he's not supposed to sit with. He's eating meals with people that everyone condemns him for. Calls him a drunkard and a sinner because he's hanging out with these with people that cultures
prostitutes and tax collectors.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that's my short 5-word answer.
Oh, listen, we need to talk about this new Mexican arithmetic, man. Well, I'll take it. What do you think?
I got 5 words. Pay attention to historical context. Because I mean, when you do that, the Bible is not, oh, it's so outdated, it's so old school, it's like, no, when you pay attention to historical context, it's revolutionary, it's radical compared to what was going on in the day. Jesus is radical. Like Jesse said, the people he's sitting with, the way he treats women is like completely like out of this world when you think about the historical context. Pay attention to historical context.
Man,
that was good.
That was really good. I wish I had like a burr, some sort of sound effect, man. It was great. Let's see here. There's good music in every genre. Frap yeah, frap no.
Say frap yeah.
Frap yeah? Oh, Parker.
Frap no, man. I can't do country. I can't do country.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. Don't
Kendrick Lamar came out with a country album. What would you do?
Right, man. Those stories are rich. The rhythms, like, come on. I'm a Tennessean, so I was born in Dallas, Texas, raised most of my life 45 minutes outside of Music City. Producer, with my deepest regret, please. Thank you. How dare he? Get him the frap out of here. What is he doing? What? I'm gonna find some songs. I'm going to troll you with songs until I find something you like.
All right.
Challenge accepted. Okay. Out of Angel Studios, it's a smash hit by all accounts. The series The Chosen. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Well, first I guess I'll start with that. Have you seen it? Frap yeah, frap no.
Frap yeah.
Frap yeah. Okay, so the question is, The Chosen should be seen by every human on the planet. Frap yeah, frap no.
I'll go frap yeah. That's a big claim, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, Parker? I mean, for me, I was so skeptical. I mean, usually those movies and shows, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, this is going to be, but everyone kept talking about it. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. But frap, yeah, man, it actually is that good. I've loved it.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, Jesus movies are cheesy. Just like,
oh man,
Christians are great at cheesy. So
yes, okay. He is going to absolutely kill me for saying this, but my daughter, my sweet little wonderful baby girl who just graduated, right? Ain't never done nothing wrong in her life, right? We're watching because we're kind of a nomad because we're used to a certain brand of church. You know what I mean? We're from the South. Like if you're too kind of like yes, like it's hard for me to really engage, you know. So I like the fiery preachers, but I would like for the fiery preachers that I've come across to, be more Bible based, you know. Anyway, so we started like just visiting different churches. We do a lot of internet church watching. And I thought, like, man, I'm going to switch it up because I enjoyed that series so much. I thought, like, man, I think the kids will really like this. And so we watched episode 1, and then we maybe, just going through the series every Sunday till it's over or sometime throughout the week, whatever. They definitely like being in their PJs instead of getting dressed to go to church. So we'll see how that goes. But in the first episode, spoiler alert, Jesus shows up, right? And the first time you see him is Mary Magdalene. She reaches for a drink, and he touches her hand and says, "That's not for you." And my dog goes, "Oh, who is this?"
Oh, that's hilarious.
I have never been so mad at Jesus in my life. Like, man, what in the world? Like, wait,
Yeah.
But she was like, "Ooh, who is that?" And then when basically it's revealed that it's Jesus, she was like, "I'm so sorry." He's just really nice looking. But good, man, good. Okay, before I get you all out of here, we'll do some promotional stuff and whatnot. I've got this beef with the American pastime. Okay, snitching. Our national policy on snitching has to go. Okay, and so I pulled a Bernie Mac clip. I had to do a lot of editing to keep some of the words out, but I thought what he was saying was absolutely on point. So much so that I interviewed a rapper one time, and he was, we were talking about like gladly snitching, and he's coined the phrase snitch activism and snitch rights, right? So I told him as a joke, man, you should put that on the t-shirt and sell it. So that's what we did. So let's take a quick look, and then we'll get y'all out of here with your last words and promos.
I'm gonna tell you something, but we gotta stop the violence. We gotta vote. Stop the violence and vote. Cause I did a show in Chicago. I mean that. Stop this violence. I was in Chicago. I did a show for Cook County Jail. And over 40% of the brothers in jail for nothing. And they had a little panel thing. We got to ask the inmates questions, So I asked the inmate, I said, hey, my brother, what you in for? He said, nothing. Brothers got this thing about being a punk. What is a punk? I never did understand that for the sake of my life. He said, nothing. That's how long you in for? He said, ever? Now, for a long time, you take the 4 off that motherfucker. I said, so what you in for? I ain't no punk. I didn't tell on my boy. I said, what, you in jail for no motherfucker? No, you ain't no punk. You a new fool. Cause I'd be dead if I serve time for any of you motherfuckers. I'll be in court just like this. Judge be like, who are you? I'll be like, punk. Your Honor, he killed that motherfucker. Shot him in the head 4 times, kicked him in the face. I tried to call you, but the line was busy. I'm ready to knock him out here.
All right. Listen, sorry to bring y'all into my beef, but like I've just seen so many people under the guise of I'm not a snitch, like take the punishment for someone else and go to prison or jail and become a whole criminal because of that. So I'm trying to change that, do my little part. Anywho, Pastor Jesse, Parker, it's been great having you all. You definitely have to come back. This is not enough time. Go ahead and give your promos. We'll start with Mr. Parker. He's been so patient with me. And let's just be real. You gotta save the best for last, man. That beard in the top right corner of the screen, that should be the last thing you see. The last.
It's
voice
nice.
you hear.
It is pretty nice. But yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Jay Zilla, first time. Hope it's not the last time. It's been great. Make sure you guys check out more of the podcasts. And yeah, man, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then Mr. Jesse. Oh, Parker, you have any promos, anything that y'all are doing that you want the community to be involved in? And it's okay to say what the FRAP, right? Are y'all allowed to say what the FRAP?
Of course, man. At What the FRAP, you gotta check that out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Any projects you got going on that you would like the community to get involved in?
I mean, honestly, yeah, we have our I work at Juntos, and we have our 1-week day camp June 5th through the 9th for kids K through high school. Come through. It's the most fun kind of VBS thing you'll find this summer. And yeah, you can find us online on Facebook. Just search Juntos Ministries Albuquerque, and we'll get you plugged in.
Okay, help me out with that spelling there.
So Juntos, Juntos, and then ABQ.
Juntos ABQ. Man, let me tell you about this Mexican wordplay around here. Right. Who was I called? So my last name is Gales, right? It's Gales. And when I tell you, everyone here asks me when I have to, like, when I say my name is, Galles.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, Juntos, Juntos ABQ.
ABQ.
All right, I'm trying to do a quick banner. Don't tell anybody I did that last minute. Okay, I should have been more prepared. All right,
Hey.
Pastor Jesse, talk to me a little bit. And Parker, I'll put you in the back room there. Thank you so much for coming. Pastor Jesse, any promotions or where can they find you? And talk a little bit about your church services, man.
Okay, for sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Jay Zilla, man. It was awesome. I really enjoyed meeting you a couple years ago, and it's so good to come full circle. And yeah, Pastor, New Creation Albuquerque Church. Parker's a part of that church. We love the International District of Albuquerque. You can always check it out. We meet at 4 p.m. on Sundays, 8016 Zuni Road. Just in the neighborhood, very low-key church, and just want to try to follow Jesus in the neighborhood. So you're welcome always to check it out. This coming fourth Sunday, we just do a cookout in the parking lot, and we just invite anyone and everyone who wants to just hang out. We'll have a bouncy house with the kids and everything like that. We do that instead of church, Jay Zilla.
Oh, so my goodness.
We'll let you in the bouncy house as
okay,
well.
I was just going to ask.
Not with children, but just by yourself.
Okay. I'm about to say, because I'm a big fella.
Yeah.
I may not look it here, but I mean, you've seen me. Like 3+ is me being very liberal, 6'4", So, yeah, I was wondering about the weight and age limit. But thank you so much for joining me, man. Go ahead, shout out the podcast. Make sure you watch the What the FRAP podcast, all that good stuff, and we'll get you out of here.
Yes, sir. First time on the What the FRAP podcast. It was awesome. Keep watching, keep subscribing, share it. And hope to be on again. Shout out to Jay Zilla. Thank you, man. Great host.
No problem. Thank you so much. Go ahead, stick around in the green room. Get yourself some cookies and whatnot. So, get relaxed, stretch a little bit. This was rough. I probably next time will send some question lists, because there was a couple of times I was like, man, is that too harsh? Was that too harsh? Is he going to, sweep the leg next time he sees me? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I mean, the guest and your support has allowed me to retire from my 9-to-5 job and give me freedom to do some things that I knew for a long time I was supposed to be doing. I'm a Christian. I do feel led to do some things. And I'm telling you, I was absolutely miserable until I turned it around and just chose and decided that I'm going to act happy. I'm going to act like I'm interested and engaged. And by God, I actually became happy, interested, and engaged. And after that, the show kind of took off, and I was able to, leave the company that I work with now, the company I used to work for. So, man, just stay in touch with each other. And like the gentleman said before, there's power in people, and meet people where they're at. Be kind. Start some kind ripples, and let's just see what happens if we get enough people being kind. Join us on tomorrow. We're going to have my wife and I are going to probably go head to head. This is May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So there'll be, that's going to be the theme of our shows for the entire month. So we're now Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then there's Urban Academia on Saturday night. So yeah, keep watching, keep subscribing like the gentleman said. And thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm Jay Zilla. This has been the What the FRAP podcast. Peace.
This morning, a violent weather outbreak bringing tornadoes to Florida's Atlantic coast.
Now to that urgent and massive manhunt after that deadly mass shooting near Houston. The youngest victim just 8 years old. Police say the suspect